I get it, there's that moment when you open a product page, the photos look perfect, the specs are all glittering, and you start picturing yourself cruising through a new game at ultra-high settings. Then the laptop lands on your desk, you fire it up, and suddenly the weight, heat, or battery life feels like a hidden surprise. That's the exact kind of disappointment I've seen too many gamers talk about in forums, so I'm going to walk you through why the ASUS TUF A18 might be the answer to that frustration, or why it could still leave you wishing you'd read the fine print first. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the core dilemma most buyers face when they're hunting a new gaming laptop. They want the biggest screen possible for immersive play, but they also need something that won't turn their coffee table into a sauna after an hour of intense sessions. The TUF A18 tries to bridge that gap with an 18-inch FHD Plus display that pushes 144 Hz and even supports GSANC, which is a nice nod to smooth visuals without tearing. In real life, that means if you're playing fast-paced shooters like Valorant or Call of Duty, Warzone, you'll actually notice the difference between a 60 Hz panel and this 144 Hz beast. The extra screen estate also helps when you're juggling a few windows, say, keeping a Discord chat open while you raid in Elder Scrolls Online. That kind of multitasking is where the larger display starts to feel like a real advantage, not just a marketing claim. Now, power. The laptop is built around an AMD Ryzen 7 260 desktop-class processor that can turbo up to 5.1 GHz, paired with an RTX 5068 GB GPU. On paper that sounds like a perfect middle ground for 1080p gaming, and honestly, in practice it largely lives up to that promise. When I tested Cyberpunk 2077 on medium settings, the frame rate hovered around 5,862 frames per second, which is respectable for an 18-inch laptop. What's more useful is how the CPU handles non-gaming workloads. I threw a video editing session at it, cutting together a 15-minute montage in DaVinci Resolve, and the render times were comparable to a mid-range desktop. If you're the type who does a little game streaming, occasional video work, or even some light 3D modeling, the Pug-Poo combo won't feel like a bottleneck. That said, the RTX 5060 isn't a flagship GPU. It will struggle if you push every title to ultra-high settings or try to run 1440p gaming without scaling down. For anyone who expects to dominate Cyberpunk at ultra-high, or who wants to future-proof for the next generation of titles, you might feel the limits sooner rather than later. The sweet spot is definitely 1080p with a mix of high and medium settings, which makes sense given the laptop's price point and its target audience. Speaking of price, the TUF A18 lands in the upper mid-range bracket. You're paying for the 18-inch display, DDR5 RAM, and a 1TB SSD, not just a modest storage cage. The SSD size means you can install a few large games, keep your OS snappy, and still have space for assets without constantly shuffling files. I noticed the SSD's performance right away. Game load times were consistently under 10 seconds, even for titles with heavy textures like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That fast storage is a practical win for anyone who hates waiting for levels to load. One area where the laptop truly shines is its connectivity. Wi-Fi 6E ensures you get low-latency connections in crowded networks, which is a big deal if you're streaming on a busy apartment floor or playing in a house full of devices. The inclusion of a USB-C port that supports both data and power, along with several USB-A ports, means you can hook up a mouse, headset, external SSD, and even a monitor without needing a dock. I ran a dual monitor setup with an external 144 Hz panel, and the laptop held its own without dropping frames, so the graphics output isn't throttled by the built-in screen. As for the TUF durability branding, yes, the chassis is a magnesium aluminum alloy that feels sturdier than many plastic-based competitors. That sturdiness translates to less flex when you're typing or tapping the keyboard during a frantic match. The keyboard itself has perky RGB backlighting, which not only looks cool but actually helps during night sessions. The key travel is decent, not too shallow, so you won't get the mushy feeling that some thin laptop keyboards have. However, the laptop does weigh close to 3 kilograms, around 6.6 pounds, so it isn't something you'll want to lug around campus all day. If you're planning to use it as a primary desktop replacement and keep it on a standing desk, the weight isn't a problem. If you're looking for a true portable machine, this might be a trade-off. Battery life is another hidden trade-off that many first-time owners overlook. The 76Wh battery will give you roughly 3 to 4 hours of mixed-usage gaming, browsing, a bit of streaming, but you'll quickly see the charger notification flash if you push the GPU hard for longer than an hour. The fast charge.